The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience Workday Charity Open DraftKings picks and preview. Remember, give the episode a like, give me your sleeper in the comment section, and as I put out on the Twitter machine on a Monday evening, the easiest way to help out this show, rate the show 5 stars. You want to leave a review? Even better, and especially important in non-United States countries. Now, if you're in the United States, super important as well. Same as Canada. But if you're in like a place where presumably a lot of people do not listen to the Pat Mayo Experience, like even places like Japan or Australia or Ireland or Iceland or Finland, I'm sorry I didn't give your country a shout out if I've missed you, but even like 2 or 3 new ratings or reviews in those countries can really spike up the show to the very top of the charts in terms of searchability. Thus, everything grows. So please help me out all around the board. That 5-star rating, just scroll down. Boom, got it done. The stats and info and tools and ownership projections and simulations I will be talking about today are powered by fantasynational.com. If you use promo code Mayo or just put /Mayo at the end of fantasynational.com, you get yourself 20% off. Highly recommend you go check that out. The Listeners League, it's full. All 6,000 people. Hopefully we can get 6 figures, $100,000 guaranteed for next week at Memorial. If Tiger plays, then hopefully it won't take all that long again. Then we can make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. We make this so big. This is why the ratings and the retweets and everything like that help. The more people that listen, the more players that play in the Pat Mayo Experience Listeners League. There's no rake in that league. Maybe we can have a millionaire maker at some point if the show gets big enough. It would take approximately 1,000 times bigger than it is right now to do that. But hey, a boy can dream. Rick Gehman, rickredgood.com on the line. What's going on, my man?
Pat, yeah, a rake-free Millie Maker would be that'd be something special. I think I think we're on the path. That'd be great. But no, things are good. Things are very busy. Glad to be back on with you.
So, what are we doing in terms of the course? Jeff and I briefly discussed it on Monday's show. You can find all previous content and my write-up in the description of this podcast and video. The same place where you can find the Listeners League every single week, by the way, in case you were wondering. Slower greens, shorter rough than we're used to seeing at Muirfield Village, some easier pin placements, different tee boxes. But like when we're doing research, do we just look at how it plays at Memorial? Like how much can you really glean from that in terms of trying to predict out what's going to happen?
Yeah, I think there's only so much they can do from week to week. I actually think it would be more interesting if the Memorial was first and the Workday Charity Open was the second week. I think you could see some more extreme changes. From what I understand, Pat, they're going to start letting that rough grow basically on Thursday of the work day, see if they can get it a little bit thicker by the time the Memorial comes around. Yeah, they'll run a little bit faster, and Jack has his pin locations. Here's the pins you can't touch. Put them anywhere else on the green for the work day. No problem there. So I think the obvious answer is we have to use Muirfield Village in the Memorial history. It's not great because it's, greens are going to be slower. They'll be more receptive. Rough won't be as penal, but I think that's better than not using anything at all, which is our other opportunity. These are still small 5,000 square foot greens. That's not going to change. This is still a second shot course. That's not going to change. So I think you just have to be aware of what you're using and how that could change from this week at the Workday to next week at the Memorial.
Are there any skill sets of players you just immediately want to cross off? Like, obviously, if you have bad irons, but you have a good short game and you make every putt, that you can just find yourself there on the weekend. That's a recipe. It's a very low percentage recipe, but you want to be targeting what? Excellent approach players and guys that can save themselves from like greenside bunkers.
Yeah. So really there's a ton of bunkers out here. A lot of them are in play. And to put the green size into perspective, they're about 5,000 square feet. Tour average is like 6,500. The really, really small ones, Pebble and Harbor Town, they're like 3,700, something like that. So these are fairly small. And it's a long course that is actually not, and it's also what we call like a big ballpark, right? Like it's not like you're going to hit it OB in places. You can kind of bomb and gouge this. So the short hitters, as we get more out of this restart, right? The first couple of weeks were great for guys that weren't necessarily long off the tee. That advantage for bombers is going to get more and more pronounced each and every week, essentially from here on out. So the short guys that obviously, might not be able to hit their irons as well. Like they're almost toes up this week.
Yeah, if you're going to be a short hitter, you better be able to at least gain on proximity against most of the field, especially with those longer irons. The one weird thing is looking back at the par fives, most of them are reachable in 2 by almost anyone in the field historically, but I saw that 3 holes got a yardage boost, at least per the scorecard. I don't know how that's going to set up every single day, but one of them was a par 5 that made it 30 yards longer. This is a different time of year, obviously, for Muirfield Village. It's hotter. I would expect more rollout from the fairways. Maybe that's why that was done. But the par 5s themselves don't seem to be like, there's going to be a huge advantage if you can bomb it and like hit a 9-iron into the green. That's an advantage in of itself. But even if you're, I don't know, Jason Duffner, you can probably still get there in 2.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have an issue. It might just be a longer iron. I do think it is interesting about the rollout. That was very evident last week at Detroit Golf Club. I mean, it's the middle of summer in Detroit. Those guys were getting 30, 40 yards of rollout at times, and that obviously makes the course play a lot differently. So interested to see. I did see that as well. A couple of holes, at least on the scorecard, lengthened. I think it's probably because time of year and how this is going to play. But you're right. This is the big boys will just chew up the par 5s, and then everyone else will at least be able to get on the green or up and around the green. You're going to see a lot of up and down attempts for birdie on these par 5s.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The only other thing that I wanted to point out was where these greens normally run so fast, and it looks like, at least for the workday, they're going to be a little bit slower. That could throw a wrench into everything. How do you think that affects the guys for next week? If on the stimp, let's say it's 11.5, and next week it's 13, like, wouldn't that screw people up week to week, or am I just galaxy branding that?
No, I think there's something to that. So this is a really weird combination of, okay, you get a full week of extra recon for the workday if you're going to play the Memorial. I mean, there's a reason guys play practice rounds. They want to get a look at the course. Now, if you get a look at the course and it's not going to be in the same condition of how you play it, I do think it takes a lot of time to adjust to that. The green speed is the one thing I'm most concerned about from guys this week to guys next week, because you're right, Pat, like they're going to play 4, hopefully, rounds plus a few practice rounds on potentially 11.5 on the stimp greens. And then they're going to have to essentially relearn all the breaks, refigure everything out, because the breaks are completely different on a 13. You have to play your lines a lot differently. So that's like my big concern about guys who are playing back-to-back weeks. I think it's a little bit of galaxy brain, but I think it's very, very warranted.
And the final thing too is if anyone's like playing a make the cut parlay, I went and looked at the odds for it. Wait till next week to play the make the cut parlay, because you have 156 players this week. There's going to be 120 next week, and books aren't great. Like they just throw those props up for fun anyway, that I could see the odds being exactly the same next week as they are this week, even though the field like is a little bit stronger, but for like the same guys, despite the fact that there are over 40 fewer people in the field.
Yeah, this is the big boy field. This is the full field that was extended post-COVID. Next week's an invitational still. They've expanded the field a little bit, but this is like the big one. This is the biggest one that you get. And then to couple that with the fact that we're still going, top 65 and ties. Thank goodness we got rid of the MDF. It's going to be small. There's going to be some carnage out there.
Yeah. Would you guess over under 5% in the Millionaire Maker in terms of 6 of 6? It's been way under that 2 weeks in a row.
I was going to say it was like way under that last week and the week before, right? Yeah, I think you got to go under that again. I mean, more guys, the same cut line. One chalky guy misses, and you're looking at 2% of 6 of 6.
Yeah, well, the funny thing, like last year, the cut was +2, +1, +4 the year before that. Like, what do you expect the cut line to be this week? Like, I don't, like, let's just presume it plays as difficult as the Memorial usually does. And that's an invitational field. So there's going to be more guys around this time. Like, +4 seems like a realistic number.
I do think it's realistic. There's like part of me that's concerned it plays, and I don't want to say a lot easier, but a lot easier in terms of like the Memorial, which is, you get maybe an even par cut. I don't think that's going to happen, but there is part of me that thinks like, oh man, we're not taking into a much account. Like greenskeepers are good. They can make this play however they want. I'm a little bit concerned about that. And we're just kind of comping it straight to, the Memorial version of this, but I like where your head's at there. Handful over par, 3-4, something like that seems right.
Last thing before we jump into the picks and the players from fantasynational.com/Mayo. If you want to get yourself the discount, if you go into the course breakdown section, you'll find that driving accuracy at Muirfield Village is significantly higher, 8 percentage points higher than tour average. Greens and regulations way down versus the tour average, and scrambling percentage is 53% versus 58% at the average tour event. I credit the long rough and small greens for that, and where that was the actually thing I wanted to hit on finally too, is that I think that bad putters, generally speaking, at Muirfield Village get sort of a reprieve in the fact that it's so hard to get your ball close to the pin trying to get it up and down from around the green that everyone just gets stuck with 10 footers. Therefore, there's just way more misses.
Yeah, I mean, what, Duffner's won here, Hideki's won here, right? I don't think we'd classify those guys as good putters. It is interesting. I do something similar as well on my site where I compare each course to every other course, and we got similar stats, right? So strokes gained around the green, only 3 other courses on tour is it more important at than it is here at Muirfield Village, obviously because of those small greens. They're very difficult to hit. You're going to have to get up and down. So yeah, I think it's a situation where the good putters kind of get mitigated a little bit just because of the way that these greens and around them and the bunkers and things like that will actually set you up.
Yeah, and when you look at someone like Tiger last year, I believe he came inside the top 10, lost over 7 strokes putting. So you can get it done ball striking wise here. Duffner won with negative strokes putting the year that he ended up winning. You can putt yourself into contention. Like, we're not saying that. And around the green, well, important, I think, like if you reversed engineered it, I think it really depends on what your lie is at this place. Like the best player could have the worst lie and the worst player could have the best lie, and all of a sudden it's a different story.
Yeah, for sure. You can get stuck in some hairy situations. This is a big boy course, right? I mean, this is a place that next week all the stars are going to show up. They're dying to get here. They're dying to get to Jack's tournament. This is going to bite back. There's going to be doubles made, right? I know we've like shattered a lot of scoring records in the first 4 weeks of the PGA Tour coming back. I mean, the average score before last week, the average winning score was 19 under. We hit that last week after round 3. Matthew Wolff was already there. I mean, scoring's at an unbelievable clip right now. I think we start to see it slow down this week.
Watch this play like minus 30. It basically becomes the Bob Hope shootout. All right.
I'm so scared.
So the top end players. Oh, do you work for CBS, or at least you have a partnership with CBS? Tiger's playing next week, right?
Okay, so I have like no inside information, but yes, like he's absolutely playing next week.
Good. That'll be great numbers for everyone in the community across the board. Jeff and I may actually have to do a live cut sweat show if that's the case. We'll see about that, if I can get out of the house with the 2 little kids. 10K players. There are 6 of them here. Justin Thomas, following his miscut at the Travelers, is $11,100. Rahm is second, 10-9. Cantlay, the quote-unquote defending champ. He's the defending champ of this course, just not this event. Brooks, Xander, Hideki is an even $10,000. He's a former winner of this event. He's also won at Bridgestone, which is played in Akron, Ohio, which has seen a lot of crossover success over the years. My numbers tell me that Justin Thomas is by far the best play here. Now, the Fantasy National Simulator has Jon Rahm as by far the best play of any of these guys, but I think that DraftKings, with only $200 separating them and Justin Thomas having fucked everyone over last time out, that he's the play here.
Yes, I think that he is very appealing. I think it's interesting, right? I mean, Justin Thomas's ceiling is literally the best player on the face of the earth. Like, that's his ceiling. It's multiple major championships. It's winning a bunch of times. It's all that stuff. But in the last like 12 months, he's gotten a little bit more inconsistent. And all that means is when Rory's bad weeks are he finishes T21, Justin Thomas's bad weeks are he misses the cut, which is what he did last week at the Travelers. It's what he did at the Genesis. It's what he's done 3 of the last 5 years at the Memorial. But all the other results in between the Genesis and right now, all top 10s if he made the cut. The other 2 years at the Memorial, top 10s on the years that he hasn't missed the cut. So like you really get I guess my point being that if you're trying to win $1 million, which is essentially what we're all trying to do, right? Like Justin Thomas is the mold of a player that gets you there, right? I don't care if he finishes T21. I need him to like win the golf tournament or miss the cut. It's all the same after that.
Yeah. So that's what I'm looking at here. Like just looking back at his recent results, I do want to hit on his Memorial experience a little bit here in a second, but miscut at the Travelers, 2 weeks ago. 8th, 10th, 6th, missed cut at the Genesis. 3rd, missed the cut at Sony, where he has shot a 59 once. 1, 5th, 17, 1, 4, 3, 1, 12, 12, 11. Some of those are majors and WGCs as well. So like you said, the upside is always there for Justin Thomas, and I think that he fits this course extremely well. Of all of the very top end guys, like he is the best in the critical proximity ranges. He's great on long par 3s and long par 4s. He's the best in approach. He's the best around the greens of everyone basically. Yeah, it's him. He's the best player out of the sand of all the top guys, too. Like, everything points to him this week, and I think that we might get an ownership discount. I say might just because there's so many good options here, and he's so expensive, and the bottom end of this field is not very good, and it's tough to pick these 6K guys, but I think I'm willing to risk it. We've seen these very top-heavy lineups do really well in the Millionaire Maker 2 weeks in a row. Now, granted, this field is better than each of the last 2 weeks. I mean, it's around the Travelers, a bit better than the Travelers, let's say, but when people go back and look at course history, and they see Justin Thomas a year ago, many people forget this is where he came back from injury last year, and he was a fucking disaster.
He was so bad. Yeah. So have you noticed that like the 9K range and the 10K range on DraftKings? So the 10K range keeps getting bigger. Now we have 6K or 6 guys there. The 9K range keeps getting smaller. We have 4 guys there. I think it's almost like you're being tempted to try to find one of these 10K guys and find a way to get them into your lineup. So when you compare Justin Thomas, yeah, it's early. I think there's a lot of question marks up here at the top, but especially compared to last week, I like the way that I expect Thomas's ownership to pan out.
Well, I think the reason that we're seeing so many top end 10K players is just because of the influence of golf being one of the only sports that's going on right now. And so much of the DraftKings pricing is ripped from the betting market that we even saw this in the betting market this week. There's like 7 players in the teens in terms of betting. Like, I can't remember the last time that's ever happened. And it's just horrible if you're trying to bet, but all these new people are coming in and betting on golf, and the books are like, yeah, we'll give you terrible odds. You're going to bet on it anyway. What do I care?
Yeah, that's probably very accurate of what's happening. The books are just giving everybody the worst odds. Like, there was quick anecdote. I run like the value odds. Okay, this guy has to win this percentage of time, right? Versus his implied odds. There were like 0 positive EV bets for last week and this week because the odds in the book are so bad right now. So at least for outright. So I believe how that could be used as the pricing, and we could get this. This is how it looks.
Who do you think the last man out of these 10K guys is going to be? I feel like it's going to be Brooks. That everyone says like, oh, Brooks is going to come back, and then no one ends up using Brooks, and he like wins.
I hope that's right. So I think we are getting a really good opportunity at Brooks right now. I mean, he flashed the greatness a little bit when the last time we saw him, which was RBC Heritage. He tries to fly up the leaderboard on the weekend. But the big thing for me, his big bugaboo has been the flat stick. And now 8 consecutive rounds, he's gained strokes putting. If you go back and try to find another time where he gained for 8 straight rounds in a row, it was during the stretch in 2018 that he won the US Open. I mean, obviously the rest of his game is like he's not out there to be the best putter in the world. He's not Denny McCarthy or whatever, right? He's going to bomb it. He's going to hit his irons well enough. But if that flat stick comes around, like that unlocks a lot of the success for him.
I do worry about his irons right now. They're not bad, but they're super inconsistent. Like, he's having really bad rounds on approach. And if that's the case and you're forced to try to get it up and down at this course, that could prove to be a disaster if the putting just regresses a little bit. I'm not saying he's going to lose 5 strokes putting, but if he just loses, let's say, 0.4 and he's not even close on some of these up and downs, then that's a big problem.
Yeah, for sure. His irons have not been good. I think he's ranked outside the top 100 in strokes gained approach at the moment for this season. He's getting a little bit better. I think he was dead neutral at RBC Heritage. It's definitely something to keep an eye on. It is my concern, which kind of leads me into this, Pat. There's a lot of question marks in the 10K range, especially. I mean, you're talking about Justin Thomas coming off of a miscut, talking about John Rahm, who hasn't played well and has kind of played poorly in like 3 different areas of his game in the first 3 weeks back. Brooks Koepka, you're always worried about. Like, I don't like last week. If you think about question marks, there was no question marks about Bryson DeChambeau. There was none about Webb Simpson. There was none about Victor Hovland. There was none about Terrell Hatton. This is a completely different composition of 10K players that we're seeing this week.
Okay, well, let's talk about the negatives for all these guys. We talked about Thomas. He hasn't He's lost strokes in 2 consecutive rounds on approach. He hasn't lost in 3 consecutive rounds since 2017, which coincidentally is also the time he missed consecutive cuts for the last time. So it's been a while for Justin Thomas. So I'm good with Justin Thomas there. What's the downside to Rahm? That he just hasn't been playing well? Like, when I say not playing well, I mean not playing as the number 2 player in the world since the restart.
Right. It's only compared to himself, but my concern is this. So he goes miscut 33rd, 37th in his 3 starts back. The miscut, he lost 4 strokes putting. At Heritage, the 33rd, he lost strokes around the green, and then at Travelers, he lost another 4 on approach. So you can look at that and say, well, he's figuring it out, he's knocking the rust off, or you could look at it and say, wow, 3 different weeks, he's had like trouble in 3 different areas. Does he have like where's his game at right now? It's not just one thing. And I don't know if it's better to have one thing that goes wrong and then you get it right for 1 week and you win the golf tournament, or if it's better to like constantly be chasing your tail, which is what it feels like Jon Rahm's doing.
So Cantlay, the quote unquote defending champion, won at Memorial last year. What is really his downside? Because it seemed like he really shook off the rust at Travelers the first time we saw him, that maybe he's the guy.
Yeah, this is the guy with no question marks. This is the guy a lot because we haven't seen him all that much. You know, he only plays 1 tournament in the restart. He finishes 11th there. He played well at the Players, but no one will remember that. The only one round that we got. And then he played well at Genesis. Like, those are literally the only 3 times we've seen him. And you come off the course history of victory and then 4th place in 2018. Yeah, this is the only guy with no question marks.
Xander has lost on approach in 2 consecutive events now, minus 2.3 at the Heritage, minus 0.6 at Travelers. I always do like him on bent more than anything else. I think that I guess he won on Bermuda at East Lake a few years ago. But generally speaking, like, he's pretty good on bent grass. And he hits it long and he hits it straight. That's what you want here. I just do worry about those irons a little bit. And I don't know, was he rattled after missing that putt at the Charles Schwab?
I don't know. It certainly seemed like it. I mean, he's a kind of cool, calm, cool, collected kind of guy, very, very Dustin Johnson-esque. So I don't know if it actually rattled him. I think my only issue with Xander is for how solid he is. When you're paying $10,200, like, you need a guy who is perpetually a top 10 player like a Justin Thomas. Xander's not that. Like, he's going to pop off. He's going to win. He's going to finish second. He's going to be in contention. But a lot of his finishes are like 20th to 30th, and like that's okay for, you know, a professional golfer. I take that every single week. But when you're paying $10,200 for a guy, I feel like, and this is weird to say for him, I feel like I need more consistent upside.
So we're both in on Thomas as our number 1 guy at the 10K range.
I think that is right. Yes.
Who would be your 2?
Okay, so like if I think game theory, I want Brooks in this situation, but I think objectively, remove everything, there's nothing you can knock about Patrick Cantlay.
Yeah, and Hideki, it's just going to be, I mean, the putting is always going to be atrocious, but maybe this is a week where he just putts well, like when he won it at this event. It can happen from time to time, but his around the green game has been like shockingly bad since the restart. The ball striking has been immaculate, but he's usually someone who is excellent with touch around the greens, and he's just, maybe that's because of the rust that he's just figuring that out, but that's somewhat concerning.
For sure, but especially because he's usually so good there. I mean, like, if you want to play Hideki, I roster Hideki and I try not to watch any of his shots because the shot tracker is going to put you to 5 feet every time, and you're going to have to sweat whether he's going to make a 5-footer. I think at least with Hideki, you know exactly what you're getting, right? Some guys have question marks in terms of what the results are going to be. Hideki is perfectly consistent at what he always does. He's going to be pretty good, pretty elite ball striker. He's going to be fine tee to green. He's going to be terrible on the greens, and you're going to have to sweat it all week long. Like, you know what you're getting out of him. You're going to get one round where he probably shoots like a 65 or a 66, and you're going to get one round he shoots like a 72, 73 every single week. So at least there is a little bit of consistent inconsistency there.
Okay, 9K range. Rose kicks it off. Rose has won this event before, comes second, lost in a playoff to David Lingmerth. He is $9,700. Then it's Hovland, Morikawa, and Ricky Fowler. Could you just start your team? Like,
yeah.
Could you just play 9K guys? Because all these, I am intrigued by all of these options. I like Hovland the best, but I don't really like, I like Fowler the least because he's been playing the worst, but I was somewhat encouraged by what I saw last week. And he kills Nicklaus courses. He plays well at this course. He's played well at Firestone when that was in rotation. Like, this is a good time for him to kind of get his mojo back.
You have to be way more optimistic on Ricky Fowler this week than you were, 7 days ago. I agree. I don't have much issue with anybody in the 9K range. In fact, I like everybody in the 9K range. And going back to my, the whole like question mark situation with the guys up top, last week it was really hard to fade all of, Bryson Webb, Hatton, Hovland, all those guys that were over $10,000. This week you look at it and you're like, if I just dodge a Justin Thomas bullet or dodge maybe the Patrick Cantlay chalk. I mean, if Cantlay finishes T11 again, like it really wasn't worth it. So yes, I think you absolutely can make the case for just starting your lineups here in the $9,000 range. I'm so optimistic on Justin Rose long-term. His tee to green numbers are very, very reminiscent of when he was the number one player in the world since the restart. And then Victor Hovland in a kind of similar way as Bryson DeChambeau. Like Bryson, we knew was knocking on the door. It was just a matter of time. Hovland, not that close, but like still very close. He's been 4 top 25 finishes since the restart, led the field in strokes gained tee to green last week. Like the kid is so good. If I was buying stock in anybody, it'd be him. And I gotta love him again this week.
I like that this has been a breakthrough spot for a lot of young players over the years. We've just seen guys with 0 career wins, or this is like their first really big win at this course, at least. Maybe they save it next week for Memorial in the smaller field. I don't know about that. But I think that Hovland, although like Bryson's just on a different level and we've seen him win before, but I would actually contend that Hovland is closer than Bryson was to actually winning. He's led the field tee to green in 2 consecutive weeks now. He just can't fucking putt.
It's unbelievable. He really can't putt, and he sucks at chip. Actually, I will tell you, he's
gotten better around the green.
He's gotten a lot better
since the restart, and that's highly encouraging.
Yes, he told us after he won in Puerto Rico, he literally said, I suck at chipping, and he was right. The stats bared that out, and in 3 of the 4 tournaments since the restart, he has gained around the green. So it's not a lot, but even if he just plugs that little leak in his game, I mean, you said it, the sky's the limit. I mean, he's just dominating the field in tee to green numbers, and since the restart, I think he's like 3rd in strokes gained off the tee total. He's like 2nd in strokes gained tee. Like it's phenomenal stuff. He's going to win a lot.
Yeah, he's gained around the greens in 3 of the 4 tournaments so far. It's not like an abnormal amount, but he was losing like 3.5 strokes per tournament around the green. Yeah. Like that's a 3.5 stroke difference in your score just by being neutral. So he's plugged that hole. He lost 3.5 strokes putting last week, 3.3 at Travelers. Plug that hole and just make it even. All of a sudden, you're live to win. Like he's live to win these tournaments anyway every Sunday.
Yeah, I mean he literally shot. I think he was 1 under on Sunday at Detroit Golf Club, a place where we shattered scoring records for the field average, and you're losing rounds by going 1 under, and he still finishes T12. Like he's just around. He's in contention. He never stops. His foot's always on the pedal. Like very, very good things coming for him for a long time.
Yeah, I talked about the drift in the betting show yesterday with Feinberg. He was 22. I said I was holding out for a better number. I wake up Tuesday morning. That number's 25. I bet that number at 25-1. Is it optimistic? Absolutely. But I have a lot of faith in Norwegian Rory to come through and figure out this putting stroke. So Hovland and Rose are probably going to be 2 of the highest owned players on the slate. Completely makes sense. You're going to see a lot of teams probably even start with Rose and Hovland. Morikawa and Ricky are next. We talked about Ricky a little bit. Morikawa broke everyone's heart, but this seems like a perfect course. He also can't chip, which is problematic. Is the one thing.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, we haven't seen him, right? So he misses the cut at the Travelers. Then he takes the week off for the Rocket Mortgage. If you want to talk about like little hangovers after missed putts, he misses that putt in a playoff at Colonial and goes 64th missed cut after that. Now we get a hard reset. This is the first time we've ever seen this kid have a reset after a missed cut, but he's going to a place that should be a perfect fit. You want to talk about second shot courses? Colin Morikawa literally might be the best iron player on the face of the earth. I'm not sure that's much of an exaggeration. He's that good, and this should be a really good spot for him. You want to talk about breakthroughs? I know he already has 1 win, but it was Barracuda. That doesn't count. This could be a really good spot for him to break through.
Yeah, and Americans have a propensity to win Memorial, so maybe the young guy who breaks through American-wise, because you have Neiman, you have Hovland. Morikawa was the only American of that bunch, so maybe it's him. I don't know. 8K range. Here's where you can get some leverage if you want to take a chance. No one's using Sung Jae anymore. Like no one. And he's $8,900. I doubt many people are going to use Patrick Reed after last week, and he's down in price to $8,800. It's almost a $2,000 discount off last week. Everyone's using Leishman. No one's using Spieth. People always use Kuchar, and everyone will be using Neiman and probably Woodland. I love Neiman here. Like, I bet Neiman to win at 45-1. I'm going to be using him. But trying to find leverage and, like, try to get away from some ownership here, it seems like Sungjae might be the guy. Like, it's Sungjae or Spieth, and I really don't want to use Jordan Spieth.
Yeah, those guys are on two different planets. Sungjae is like 1,000 times better golfer than Jordan Spieth is. The break probably hurt Sungjae the most. I mean, he was on a roll, hasn't really been able to recapture that. But I mean, the swing is so pure. I mean, we actually got a lot of coverage from him last week. He looked like he was striking it well. I just couldn't get things to go down for him. Let's talk about. Okay, so I did bet Neiman at 45-1 as well. I'm big into guys with upside. Neiman has shown us that. He won the Greenbrier, which he won't even get a chance to defend because that tournament won't exist anymore. Maybe they'll replace it with this. Maybe Workday becomes like the beginning of the year title sponsor and they'll move it somewhere. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But I like Neiman. Let's talk about Woodland. Is he going to be popular?
I think so. Okay. So this is what happened with me with Kevin Na last week, is that I thought that Kevin Na was good in the betting market at 40-1 versus the rest of this field. And then just through osmosis, I ended up using him a ton on DraftKings. Woodland this week, there's some good numbers hanging on him in the betting market, and I think that carries over to DraftKings.
I'm terrified of him. I think I'm out on him. And I'll tell you why. So since the restart, he's lost 9.1 strokes off the tee total. That's 10 rounds that he's played, almost a stroke a round for a guy who for years has been prolific off the tee. Like, that's his weapon. He's now going into battle without his weapon, and now he's essentially like a pedestrian. It's really bad. Like, if he doesn't figure that out, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. How long have we talked about Gary Woodland being an elite ball striker? I don't know if this is a trend, a bad run that he's on, but I couldn't really find another 3 tournament stretch where he had lost this many strokes off the tee in a row. I'm very concerned.
And it's all happening on like one hole per round, and he's making like a quad.
Yeah, it's super weird. So I'm scrolling through the database right now. The only other he lost back-to-back events. He lost strokes gained off the tee. Like, this is unheard of for him, which is usually a red flag.
Reed? This feels like a real, like, I'm considering betting Reed to win as well, because he's like 35 or 40-1 in some spots, down in 30 in some places. But anytime the odds get that low on Patrick Reed, like, I don't care about the course. I don't care about the layout. Patrick Reed is either really good or really bad. That's kind of his outcome.
Yeah, he's a winner, right? He's a winner. He's very likely to miss the cut as well, but we don't talk about this enough. There are so few golfers who have legitimate winning upside. Like, you have to gain 15 strokes an event on the field to win a golf tournament. I think that's about the average. Like, there's only so many guys that can actually physically gain 15 strokes on the field. Patrick Reed, absolutely one of them. So when you're at least trying to differentiate, when you're trying to find that guy, that pivot, at least pick somebody who's got winning upside. And Patrick Reed definitely has that.
Are you in or out on Chalk Hadwin? Because I'm in to a degree.
I'm probably out. I mean, how often does he put together, at least, I don't know, what are we talking about? Top 10 finishes in a row, something like that is what we're probably going to need from him. The good thing, the thing I like, and there's usually only about 12, 14 guys a week that fit this criteria, is that he gains strokes in all 4 categories, which, like, that's what Berger did heading into Colonial. Like, it's usually a good sign that just one thing going wrong is not going to bury you. If your putter goes cold, he'll be fine because the rest of his game is so solid. If his irons are wonky for a day or two, he can kind of pick it up elsewhere. So I like guys like this. I don't know. Like, he needs to finish Like, he probably needs a T10. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, he tends to have good results in spurts over the course of his career. Like, if he finishes inside the top 10, I think he's done it a few times, then backed it up with another top 10 the following week. I think he's done that 4 times in his career. And then he gets bad for a while. He played really well at Firestone in his one appearance. He was good here a few years ago, but he's up and down. I think he's a fine enough player, and the irons have just been so hot that I'm curious to see what his ownership comes in relative to someone like Gary Woodland. But once you get after him, it's like Wolf, Bubba, Fitzpatrick, Louis, and Phil. no one is using any of those guys except for Ann, maybe.
Yeah, because what was the stat I saw? Benyon has never
Lost
lost
strokes
putting here. I see that. I had to double check that. That seems impossible. He's absolutely terrible. I'm a glutton for Benyon, and I could potentially see myself investing in him, but I'm very concerned about the ownership. I assume that means everyone is going to go to Streelman.
Yes,
at 78, right? That's the natural play.
Yeah, I'm good with fading high sevens chalk Streelman. Whether it kills me or not, that's fine. That just does not. Just look at Streelman's name around the rest of this town. And I know he's coming off a really great week. He's been playing really well tee to green. He's being tipped in the betting market at 70-1. Like, I'd rather have Joel Dahmen.
Okay, Joel Damon's been a top 20 machine. Can I tell you I'd rather have Scotty Scheffler? Can I go back? Can I go back to that?
Okay.
I'll make a case for it if I have to.
Well, you don't need to make the case. The guy shoots +7 one round. He shoots -7 the next day. Like, we know. Yeah. Like, is he the young American guy that gets his breakthrough at this course? Like, I could see that. Like, we all liked Scotty Scheffler 2 weeks ago, and now everyone's out on him. Like, it seems like a logical time to go back.
It's amazing that his Thursday round at Rocket Mortgage was so bad that I almost want to give him a pass on it. He lost like 6 shots on approach, which is twice as bad as any round he's ever played in his entire life. And then, of course, he bounces right back, as you're alluding to, Pat, on Friday. He was like first in the field on Friday in strokes gained off the tee. He was third in strokes gained tee to green. And you can argue it's very easy to play golf when you are like starting the day 12 shots off the cut line, something like that. You can go out and play pretty free and easy, but the skills are there. He is a very good young golfer who goes through just as much volatility as Joaquin Niemann and some of these other Matthew Wolff, some of these other young guys that just need to figure it out. Like, I'm a long-term investor on Scheffler, just trying to figure him out week to week.
Well, here's the big thing with Kevin Streelman, which I think is relatively unsustainable. Over the past 50 rounds in this field, he is first in par 5 scoring.
Yeah, because he's like not a very long hitter. I mean, he's great. He's a great ball striker, but he doesn't pump it out there. So yeah, you think that is he's playing over his head.
That just means he's either sticking his wedges so close because he's not hitting a lot of these greens in 2. Right. So he's sticking his wedges really close, or he's just making a bunch of 12-foot putts, which I've played Kevin Streelman a lot over the past, 5 years. Guy's not a good putter.
No, he's not. No, he gets there with his irons. Yeah, I'm trying to look up. I mean, maybe he is. Could he just be Zach Johnsoning all these par 5s?
He is. That's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, he's 13th on tour this year in par 5 birdie or better, which I would have never guessed he'd be there. But yeah, it has to be wedge to 12 feet and make enough of those putts.
So the rest of the 7K range is kind of going from top to bottom. Here are the guys that I have starred right now. I think I'm going back to Ohio kid Harold Varner III. I really like Shane Lowry at $7,400. But when do I not like Shane Lowry? And when is he ever good? The answer to that is always like him, never good, except for when I don't use him and he wins a major. Either way, $7,400 for a top 25 player in the world when he's right next to Chris Kirk. I'm going to take that. And Russell Henley. I got to think that he's not going to gain 10 strokes with his irons, but he gained like 4, and you're doing pretty fine here, Russ.
Yeah, I'm on board. I mean, I like Varner. Varner's a great ball striker. I obviously have concerns about him being able to close something out, but now you're getting into that's exactly right. When you're talking about $7,500, go out and finish 10th, and I'll be thrilled, right? Like it doesn't matter. I don't need him to win the golf tournament. I'm actually considering I like Cam Champ a lot here. So in his first 2 starts, we've only seen him twice in the restart, back-to-back top 15s. Gained a ton of strokes off the tee last week. That essentially accounted for his entire week. Like all of his strokes gained basically came from off the tee. But I think there is this perception, and I'm guilty of this over the last couple of years, that Cam Champ's off the tee is so good and the rest of his game is so bad that if he wasn't elite off the tee, he would be brutal. And I think that was true like 2 years ago, but he's actually getting a lot better. Like he's a neutral putter. He's a small positive on approaches. He still loses around the greens, but he is definitely a more well-rounded player now than he was 12 months ago.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's funny to go back and look, a Safeway aside, and that's somewhat of a weaker field. He's done really well in weak field events in the past, and he does really well at short courses.
Well, yeah, because he's a bomber.
Yeah, but it's funny because when we think about bombers, we think, oh, the longer the course, the better. But it seems like the longer the course you put Champ at, the worse he gets.
Yeah, because he like tries to really pop one out there. Yeah, when it's almost like it's kind of what we talked about Gary Woodland, right? Gary Woodland, less than driver courses, just put yourself in position. You don't have to hit it out there, and now you're hitting 8-iron into holes that other guys are hitting 6-iron into, or things like that. So I could see it. It might be more advantageous for him to be on a shorter track.
How do you feel about Team Muirfield Village? Keegan Bradley, Kyle Stanley, Jason Duffner.
Oh man, Duff Daddy. He's so bad. Have you like his putting numbers are atrocious. I guess Keegan is probably the guy I'd go with. He's played better than the other two recently. He's hashtag team no putt. I guess they kind of all are, but I would prefer.
They most definitely all are. I roster these goobers every single week, and they can't make a 2-foot putt.
Yeah, Duffner's so bad. Keegan is probably my best bet because he's going to be somewhat long enough off the tee. He's going to be straight off the tee. He's like a total driving guy. But I'm not thrilled to play any of them.
Bud Colley was someone who kind of rated out really well for me in sneaky categories. Like, he's so good around the greens. He's really good on bent grass when it comes to putting. He plays long par threes really well, and we're going to get 3 of those this week that are super difficult. Is it a week to go back to Colley?
So I think it's interesting because I think he's played well here. Oh yeah, okay. So top 10 last year at the Memorial, and then 25th in 2017, and he made the cut in 2016, missed it in 2018. So I do like that. He's not a guy that I play often. I like to pick my spots for him. I think the around the green game is advantageous here, as we've been talking about, and you throw in a mixture of pretty decent results. This feels like a good spot. Yes, I would agree.
Luke List?
Oh boy. This is a conversation we haven't had in a while. I'll tell you what, I mean, he's looked okay. He looked okay last week. I don't know what he ended up finishing, 20 something.
He missed 4 putts inside 5 feet on the front 9 on Sunday.
Well, perfect. He's in mid-season form. He's ready to rock and roll. I mean, what did he do? He won on the Corn Ferry a couple of weeks ago, right? And now he's trying to contend up here. I'm not a Luke List guy. I know you are, but I'm out.
He's just not. When I was first getting into Luke List, like when I was before anyone knew about Luke List, like I'm a hipster Luke List guy, but his overall tee to green was really good. Almost sort of the improvement that we saw or seeing from Victor Hovland right now. Luke List kind of had 2 years ago. He went from being atrocious around the greens to being a good player around the greens, and like he forgot about that. Like he slept funny and just got wiped from. It was like he was in Internal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind. Like it just got wiped and it's gone, and now he's bad again. I don't get it.
Yeah, and List was the original like team no putt. Like when we were doing models and spreadsheets like years ago, he was always the guy like, why is Luke List ranked 3rd here? Because his like stats were so prolific, but his results were so poor.
Looking at the chalk from this area, at least the perceived chalk at this moment, Streelman, Damon, Varner are likely to be your 3 highest owned guys in the 7s.
Streelman, Damon, Varner. Okay, so that allows you. So if I wanted to pivot off of those guys, and I could play Scheffler, Champ, yeah, and I don't know who I'd pick, like 74, 70. I mean, Lowry, Lonto, my buddy Lonto. Back-to-back top 25.
Lonto above $7,000. Taking your advice, I'm going to pass on that one.
That is true. He's about $400 too expensive here.
I have this guy for you, and my projected ownership on him is 1.9% in the 7K area. Him. Does that do anything for you?
I love him already. Who is it?
Jason Day.
Oh no, I don't. Man, he's okay. So Jason Day, this is not necessarily like fantasy based, but the amount of cover that Jordan Spieth has provided Jason Day, and no one is talking about that Jason Day stinks, is like incredible. I think he's outside the top like 180 in strokes gained approach, which is a shell of his former self. He can't even make a cut at Rocket Mortgage. He can't make a cut like anywhere. And this is like his home track that he's got no good results at. It's the weirdest thing. I'm certainly not going to invest in Day now when he doesn't really play here, and he's like 2 years at least removed from the good stuff.
I think I'm going to take a shot on him here, and here's why.
Oh man,
4 consecutive rounds gaining strokes off the tee. That's encouraging. Now, he's lost on approach in 3 of his past 4. However, in his past 3 rounds, he's actually gaining on the field in opportunities gained, which is greens in regulation or greens under regulation from 15 feet and in. So he's giving himself ample opportunities. And here's the rub. He's not putting. We know that Jason Day can just kind of like flip on and then all of a sudden he's gained like 8 strokes for the week on the greens. Like his wins kind of come out of nowhere. I still think that he has winning equity if he can kind of figure it all out. Knowing the fact that I'm going to use him this week means he's probably going to definitely WD, but I don't think it's as dire as it may seem. He masks all of this through great putting. And then he ends up making the cut, then not doing anything, and just kind of lingers around. A lot like Louis does a lot of the time. Yeah. But I am encouraged by him driving the ball. That's going well. When he is hitting his irons decently, like on every other hole, he's actually sticking it close. Start making a few of those putts, then all of a sudden you're back in it. Like, if you give me a 2% Jason Day, like, I don't know, I might bite on that.
Is a 2% Jason Day better than a 2% any other of these guys here? You know what I mean? Like what? Like I don't know what a good example would be. This is a bad one. Like Kokrak.
I'm out on Kokrak this week, just out. But like Louis and Day are projected right around the same ownership, and I think I'd still rather take Day.
I guess if you compare, if I'm forced to pick one of those two, I would also choose Day. But I don't think I'll play either of the. I mean, you're right. The putter usually keeps him around. He's ranked like 146th in strokes gained putting this season. He only has 18 rounds though. He has a very small sample size, but I am not optimistic at all on Jason Day.
I am not super optimistic either. But I mean, these Spieth people get paid off every single week. Why can't I get paid off on Jason Day?
The Spieth people do not. I guess they kind of get paid off every single week. They get paid off more often than not, just because of how many birdies he makes. I mean, you got to play 4 rounds. At least Spieth plays well for 2, and then he stinks on the weekend. Like Jason Day plays the first 2 poorly, and then you don't even get 4 rounds out of him.
Okay, who's the better play? Day at 2%, Louis at 2%, or Bubba at 5%?
Oh God,
Bubba. This could be a Bubba track. He plays well here.
Yeah, I think it's still Bubba at 5. If you got me to like Bubba at 10, you could probably convince me it's one of the other 2 guys. But Bubba, at least, like I'm not a Bubba guy by any stretch, but you know, he's got more top 10s like this month than Jason Day has this year. Like I'm not sure that's even an exaggeration without looking it up. Like Bubba at least pops off at times. Jason Day's been very bad for a while.
Snedeker coming in at less than 1% owned. I can't make a compelling case for him, but maybe
no.
But he's another guy who's like sucks. Oh, it's a Brandt Snedeker week. Oh, he's gaining 8 strokes on approach and making every putt.
Yeah, this was coming. His ball striking has been obviously. I mean, it's never good, right? Like he gains a ton in short game. That's going to be his path to. I don't want to call it path to victory, but his path to providing value to you. But he was so bad at Travelers, where he made the cut and lost 6 strokes on approach. He was actually better last week, lost a 1.7 on approach. I mean, 7 rounds in a row, 7 events in a row, he's lost strokes off the tee. Like this is the antithesis of guys that I like to play. He is team no ball striking. Like it's I hate this. I hate him. I actually like him. No, I love him. I hate playing him.
Yes, that's true. I do love Brandt Snedeker as well. But like he sucked last week and almost rallied to make the cut.
It feels like, okay, like you want to talk about the path to victory or the path to certain things. Like it's so specific for Brandt Snedeker. It is roll in every single 25 footer. Like that feels like the path to victory for him. And that's really hard to do. Like the odds are against you.
6K guys, if you wanted to play superstars and super scrubs, I think that the 6K range is not good this week, at least compared to other weeks where I didn't see that huge of a difference between 7,500 and 6,500. There are guys. Yep. I mentioned Duffner. I don't hate that. Hoagie is another one just because he's so good on approach. Wawrinski's been playing really well. I like my guy, Brandon. Woo! $6,500 has missed 1 cut ever. Just people don't know about him. $6,500 seems nice. Charles gains on approach and gains putting. That could be good enough for $6,400. McCumber's pretty good on approach. Bo Hogg is like the local guy. I assume people will use Chase Koepka. I will not be one of those people, but he's the mid. I think all those guys, and of course, my main man, Henrik Norlander, just keeps coming through.
Yes. So we had Brandon Wu on the CBS pod. Very good guy. I hope that he goes out and does something this week. Okay, how about this? Dylan Fratelli, 6,800. Last time we saw him was the Travelers. I think he shot yes, correct. I think he shot a 71. Then he withdrew because of the positive test. So it looks, I mean, I don't know if he was going to make the cut. He probably wasn't, but like it looks worse on paper when you see that it looks like he missed the cut, right? But he withdrew because he tested positive. The week before that, Remember he set the clubhouse lead at the RBC early on Sunday, and he was like, yeah, this number's not going to hold. I'm going to go drink beer or whatever. And I was like, oh, Dylan Fratelli, he's my new favorite player. So like he's been playing a lot better than even what the results would show. He's 6,800. I think he is better than a lot of his peers down here. And then the other guy that I thought was interesting, and he was getting a little bit of, he played with Sung Jae last week, so we saw him on the feature coverage, is Sung Yul No. So he's coming back from his mandated military service in South Korea, finished 11th at the Travelers, made the cut last week. Super, super sweet, smooth swing. One of the nicest looking swings. Just needs to get his reps back in. Hasn't played a whole lot. But he's 6,800. Yeah, a chalky Norlander. I don't know if you want that, but I don't really love the $6,000 range.
Swafford, shockingly been playing pretty good.
Yes.
Is he back? Because he used to be the guy to use in the sixth day. Remember how everyone just used Charles Howell every single week because he would just make the cut? Swafford used to be that guy 3 years ago. And then he finally won, and then he sucked.
Correct. He had the longest active made cut streak. It was like, I think at the time it was like 18 or 19. He wins what is now the Desert Classic, I guess it is, or the Amex. He wins that and then misses like a million cuts in a row. It was unbelievable. He's never been the same. It's shocking. But he does look good. And actually, he was a guy that I think it was last week through 36. I think I fired a live bet on him because he was like leading the field in strokes gained tee to green and couldn't do anything on the green. So at least that's the type of profile of guys that we would like. So yeah, Swafford, even like Sung Kang. Sung Kang's good for a top 10 every once in a while. He's $6,500. Like there's some names down here of guys that are clearly better than their peers.
Yeah, like Chesson Hadley struck the ball much better in round 2 than round 1 last week. If he can get it rolling, that's usually pretty good. Always worse on bent. My main man, Cam Percy, ended up missing the cut because he can't putt, but the ball striking has kind of been out of this world. A lot the same with Henrik Norlander in that sense. But just looking very briefly before we get out of here, in the 6K range, I just ran my custom Fantasy National model that I built, readjusted from the Sunday show, as I said I was going to do. It's mine now. You can't have it, although you probably don't want it anyway with the way my picks have been going. But in the 6K range since the restart, so very limited sample, not super telling, just guys of note that pop up inside the top 50. CT Pan. Who else do we have here? Tyler McCumber. Jonathan Bird. Henrik Norlander is 6th. Swafford is 18th. Matthew Neesmith is 22nd. Maybe a week to go back to him, just because everyone's off of him now after he was popular.
I was going to say, everyone kind of forgot about him. He was like the darling for the first couple of weeks. Everyone forgot. I haven't even considered his name in a while. Yeah, that might not be a bad buyback.
Yeah, bad off the tee, good on approach. That's something that you can get away with here, I feel like. Like, you can't be a huge negative off the tee, but if you want to gain like 1 stroke for the week, but you can hit your irons, that's good enough.
Yeah, it is. The old 1 stroke off the tee a week, that'll get the job done, but it's true. It'll work here.
Yeah. Rick Gehman, where can everyone find your work? Because it's everywhere these days. And where can they find your home base?
Sure. So home base, rickrungood.com, golf data visualizations at rickrungood. You can find my work, CBS Sports, the First Cut podcast. I'll share that article with you on Golf Digest for the expert picks, and a DFS article over there as well. But yeah, at Rick Run Good, I tweet it all out. You'll find it.
Yeah, quit making me look bad in that article. I mean, I'm glad you came in midway through the season, so you probably won't be able to catch me in outright winners unless you get scorching hot, just because I had such a lead built in anyway. But you've been by far the best of the quote unquote experts in that panel.
Yeah, it is very generous to call us experts, but yeah, I'm gonna try to nail a couple like 66 to 1s and see if I can catch it by the end of the year.
Yeah, I cashed in on one of those. That's the thing. Like, a lot of people just put up. Like, this week I was considering putting Justin Thomas up, but I always like to put up someone I actually bet. Like, I think that Justin Thomas is the favorite to win. I don't think that he's a bad value at 10 to 1 or 12 to 1, whatever he is, but I'm not betting him, so I'll probably put up like Hovland or Neiman.
Yeah, okay, so I don't know how to do that. So like the pick to win part, yeah, I look at it from like, I guess I should just take the favorite every week and try to like nail a win, but like I would much rather, like a lot of times I'd rather start my card at 22 to 1 or something like that, and then you have the top 10, which you can go a couple ways with this. You can pick like, oh, Bryson is the lock for top 10, Or what I noticed you do, and I think I kind of in the same way, you get like a 12-1 guy and
Yeah.
you just try to hit like a couple a year.
I do. And if you go look, because they presume that you put one unit on everything.
Right.
I have the fewest amount of top 10 winners so far this year, but I've won the most money.
Because you pick like Lonzo Griffin and like, Cam Tringale,
Yeah,
like
like,
top 10.
Yeah, basically I pick guys that are essentially 8-1 to 12-1 or more. I think I hit one guy who was like 20-1. I hit Robbie Shelton the very first week. He was like 20-1 to be top 10. But I mean, like you see like the Tour Caddy, they put up people that's like, oh yeah, Justin Thomas minus 200 top 10. It's like,
Right.
wait, who's making that bet?
Yeah, that's picking up nickels in front of a steamroller, my friend.
Yeah. All right, Rick, be well. Stop working so hard. You're making me look bad over here, and that will do it. You can find my cheat sheet up on DKNation.com. I will tweet that out because I'm just gravitating over towards that site. DK Playbook is being phased out. It's gravitated towards that new site. So you can just go figure that out. No chat on Wednesday. My fantasy football rankings will emerge on Wednesday. You can go back and watch the betting show. You can go back and watch the first look research show if you really want to get into the minutia of what I was really looking at this week and how I've rounded out a lot of my picks in my research. Column is also up in the description of this video and podcast. Tune in Sunday to my first look show, which is going to be exactly the same as last week's show, but the link for the Listeners League will be in there, and you might want to get on that early because it feels so fucking quickly at this point. Smash a like, leave a rating, subscribe to Fantasy National, and there was something else, but I forgot. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! It's the Pat Mayo Experience!